G'day everyone, just want to do a little chat about a task that needs to be addressed at the moment, and it's about this filtration system that we've got here. So what this is a filter of the effluent coming off the cow yard. It's not working 100% to my expectations, however it's working to a level, but it's got to change at the stage where it needs some maintenance. So let's just show what we're doing here. It's a filter, but around here we have the cow yard. Now our cows spend half of their lives in this cow yard. They spend every night in this cow yard, and then that's so that we can harvest the manure. But they also urinate, and we're not actually harvesting the urine. So that urine comes down this channel here beside the biodigester. This is our first, we call this a sediment trap, and so we put wood chip in here, and that catches most of the solids and starts a bit of carbon to the nitrogen process. Then it drains down underneath the pipe, through a pipe underneath here, along this little channel that I'm walking along here, and into this sort of a tank that I have here. What we put in here is carbon as a filter. This originally was meant to be a reed bed, but the reed bed wasn't adequate sizing for the amount of material coming, and also it leaked. It cracked in the brickwork and it leaked. So it didn't work. So what is their problem? It's not working. What is the solution? And around that period of time, I read the book of Paul Stamets on mycelium running, and how he processed the effluent coming off his animal yards, and using the mushrooms. I thought, okay, well, I'll try that. I didn't have access to chip, so I used vetiver grass. We got vetiver grass growing just down here. I cut vetiver grass and put that in there. I found it wasn't fine enough, and the liquid came through it very quickly. And so how did I know it wasn't adequate enough? The channel where the water runs down across the path here was very smelly. Then I added sawdust on top of that, because the vetiver grass had settled a bit. I thought, well, I've got plenty of sawdust, I have a lot of access to a lot of sawdust. So I added the sawdust in, and it still wasn't quite right. And so, okay, Tom, get it together. What did Paul use? He used wood chip, and I found a pile of wood chip, and I put wood chip on the top. Now the wood chip's been working well on the top section. However, it's got to the point now where it's blocked up because there's so much, and what we've ended up here is a liquid sludge pile. So it's not, the liquid's not travelling through, it's all blocked up. It's like the hair it got in your drain in the bottom of your shower. It's just got to that point where it doesn't flow through anymore, and if you could smell that, you wouldn't really want to smell that. That's really getting a bit toxic. Going anaerobic, it's just nature at work trying to convert that nutrient. So it's time to change it, and that's been on my mind for 2 weeks, that it needs a change, 3 weeks maybe. And then I noticed the crew coming through the valley to cut down the timber underneath the power lines, and I ran down there and said, can we get a load of chip? And hence the load of chip turned up. Perfect timing. I asked the question, it turned up, and there's our load of chip. So now it's time to empty this material out and get the chip in. Forget about the vetiver grass, forget about the sawdust, and go with the chip and just see if we can get it to work. Because the idea with the fungi filter is the mycelium goes through the chip and harvests the nutrient, so it causes a filament of filtration and harvests the nutrient, and the energy goes into making mushrooms. If it worked well, Paul has this beautiful big fungi mushroom that he notices the insects get into once it's done its thing, and it's full of grubs. Well, we could feed that as mushrooms to the chickens further back up in the system, and they could live on the grubs or get the nutrient from the grubs. So we're turning the energy into chook food. That would be ideal. Hopefully that can occur. I don't have the fungi spore that Paul has, but maybe I can get that. in time. Let's just see if we can get this back into process. So let's go and have a look what actually happened with the material that's been in here for, would it be 4 or 5 years? So that's probably about 4 or 5 years. The vetiver grass longer, the wood chip on the top not as long. Okay, so we'll just go down there and I'll keep away from the wet bit and go into the nicer bit down the back. Okay, so this is the chip bit here, and then we get down into the sawdust stuff. It's not the easiest to see, but if I just open that up, no, it's not working. So that's down into the sawdust. So you can see the sawdust down there hasn't really done a lot. It's too fine, and the organisms couldn't get at it, so it's just not the right material for this. But you have a look at the wood chip, which would have been younger wood than the sawdust, because the sawdust had been sitting in a pile for a long time. This wood chip was only probably 6 or 8 months old when it was put in here, and that's turned nearly to soil. And it's gone dark and smells good, like it smells earthy, whereas the wood chip, the sawdust bit down here, smells like that sludge up there. So this isn't working, isn't converting, isn't becoming a plant food. And so my hands are going to stink now. But I just wanted to show you that. And then also when we come down into the bottom section, which I haven't opened up yet, but that's got the vetiver grass stalks in there, and see they are still, they're very soft and brittle, but they haven't disappeared. It's not turning to soil yet, whereas the wood chip has. And so just the feedback is got to go with the wood chip, because it seems to be working well. And I wasn't testing Paul Stammett's information, I just didn't have the wood chip as a resource when I did this. And obviously we've gone through the process, had a bit of a learning, and now we're going to go with the wood chip. So get the wood chip in. If I was really clever, I would add spore, because the wood chip was only chipped yesterday, and I'm going to try and get it in as fast as I can. And if I can get some good spore to grow mushrooms of some kind here, I'm not sure I want to eat the mushrooms, but we can let go through an insect process and become food for the chickens. That would be the ideal scenario. Okay, so we call this the fungi filter, but you can't see much fungi happening in there. Maybe it has gone through this, but I can't see any fungi action in there. It's all just not quite right conditions for the whole situation. Okay, thanks guys.